Hi, this is the African teacher, Morris Odhiambo, here in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, this week I was asked to comment on Operation Dudula, or the Dudula movement, an anti-immigrant movement that has emerged in South Africa following what have been called internationally the phase of xenophobic attacks. Xenophobic attacks were attacks against majorly African immigrants, Africans who migrate to South Africa in search of livelihood because of challenges and problems in their own country and so on. So I want to read the response that I gave. And then I will make reference to Paulo Freire, the Brazilian writer and educator, who talked about a phenomenon that I'm going to use to explain to you what is going on in South Africa. So my response was as follows. South Africans are a frustrated lot, and for good reason. When powerless people are frustrated, they tend to turn on other powerless people to vent. They cannot fight the system that puts them under subjugation because it wields the instruments of violence. The South Africans, the majority, have been watching a small group of elites accumulating wealth rapidly while they suffer. So here is where now I bring Paulo Freire. And this is what I said. Paulo Freire, the Brazilian educator, has discussed this phenomenon. And what Paulo Freire says, when oppressed groups turn on each other instead of the system that is oppressing them. Okay? So Paulo Freire, in a concept that he calls the culture of silence, explains how oppression can lead to a power dynamic where the oppressed internalize the values of the oppressor, sometimes resulting in them oppressing others within their own community. So that is what Paulo Freire says about that phenomenon. It is the weak turning against the weak because they are unable to deal with the structural causes of their own oppressed position. I also explained that I never use the term xenophobia against South Africans because the term xenophobia tends to delegitimize their very genuine grievances against their exploiters and their oppressors. And you see what happened in South Africa is that the black elites basically joined with monopoly capital to oppress the majority blacks. And now every election in South Africa has become elections like in any other country in Africa where the only purpose is to legitimize power. So the elites don't work for you. This is a phenomenon across Africa. In fact, the elites share the same interests with our oppressors, those who colonized us, those who enslaved us. So they are not solving the problems that are there, the material conditions of the people. And through the Black Empowerment programs, a group of black elites was created so that it becomes a wedge against the majority black. Okay? So they form this layer of the people with money, people with resources, people who have benefited from the system, so that then they are used to continue the system of oppression. So Dudula movement is just a symptom, and it cannot achieve anything because it's not fighting to uproot structural injustice. It is power that is wielded against the powerless. And I am very sure that there is no white person among the victims of Dudula. They cannot attack white people because white people symbolize power. White people symbolize power. Okay? So for African people, avoid these reactionary movements that only make you attack fellow poor, powerless Africans. If we want to establish a continent-wide movement, which I am proposing and have been proposing for some time, then we must accept each other as Africans to fight the oppressors.